So I remember back when Nick was the modern mystic, and now he has become the old mystic, and I never really caught the reason for the change. I had a similar change, of course, in my own history here on YouTube. Originally, I started as with the channel Red Light Rocket 4, and after about a year and a half, I think I closed that account and started that. Eventually, I got YouTube to reopen Red Light Rocket 4, so that channel, still exists, and all of those videos are still there. And I wonder in Nick's case, switching from the modern mystic to the old mystic, what significance that holds. In my own case, I don't know that I could really tell you the significance of my shift, my self change in the name of my channel. You'll have to let me know what you think the reason for that was. But Nick was asking in his video, what is philosophy? It's a perennial question. Many books have been written about this question. And I have an answer to it, a very simple one that I'll give you in a minute. But the way that Nick was answering this question, I think, was first by sort of creating a sociological barrier between two groups of people, two sets of believers: the paper brain people, the book readers, like me, and the sane people, right? The rational people, the atheists, materialists, those who have woken up from the collective dream of religious mythology to the modern facts and theories of science. But, now it seems like Nick, in changing his channel to now the old mystic, has given up perhaps on the idea of a modern scientific perspective on the universe, on an objective perspective on the universe. I would hope, at least as a paper brain person, someone who reads books, that Nick would no longer look to the so-called modern scientific, rational, objective picture of the universe for some kind of an authority. I think Nick can see that, in fact, because we have to ask the question, what is philosophy? Science, natural science, could never be the final answer to any of our questions. If we're going to talk to one another about the nature of existence, there are going to be elements involved in our conversation that are not, strictly speaking, natural or available to the types of methods that science employs. Philosophy is, by definition, a non-scientific domain, which doesn't mean it isn't, in its own way, empirical. Philosophy can and should be fully empirical in that it is rooted in experience rather than rooted in abstraction. And I think when we do philosophy, we're trying to, I would say, or when we answer this question, what is philosophy? I would say that philosophy is the disciplined activation of imagination, the disciplined activation of creative imagination, of imagination that originally is anarchic, chaotic even, and that through our participation in it and with it, becomes ordered and beautiful ultimately. So the philosopher is the one who dives into that wild sea of dark weather and unknown forces, both from the depths of the ocean and the earth, and from the vertical depths of the sky and the cosmos. The philosopher is, you could think of reason, at least in two forms, but always lost at sea. The two forms, though, would be, think of Plato and Odysseus. Plato having a sort of speculative insight into the nature of reality, and Odysseus having a practical understanding of how to navigate through the world, a kind of cleverness, a practical reason. Plato wasn't so good at practical political philosophy. He almost got himself killed in Syracuse when he tried to set up his utopian republic. Odysseus was a better politician, a better navigator of society. Now, Plato's teacher, Socrates, got himself killed by the Athenian city-state. A jury of his peers deemed him worthy of the death sentence for the philosophical spells that he had been putting upon the youth. That's what he was accused of. So philosophy is a dangerous art to practice in a Western democracy, a democratic state. Philosophy is also dangerous in a corporate state, in the sort of global fascist capitalist empire that governs world affairs, a consortium of corporates, oligarchs that organize our economy and delivers the world's resources across national borders, and what we call free trade. Philosophy in that sort of a techno-capitalist context is dangerous, both to oneself as the philosopher and to society, because the things that philosophers will say, and from speaking for myself, I'm more of a Platonic than a Homeric or Odyssean thinker. I care about politics, as Plato did, but I act in a different realm, as a speculative thinker, as one who wants to understand the nature of the city before just launching off in an attempt to change it, to transform it according to one's own will. Plato wanted to understand his will. He didn't just want to will, to submit to it, to his instinctual desire. He wanted to learn to dance with desire, to truly interact with desire as an other, to come to know Eros as beauty herself, Aphrodite. So the kind of knowledge that Plato was seeking of love was not just love on the level of the erotic attraction between bodies, but love on the level of the intercourse of the spirit which underlies bodies and gives form to bodies in the course of time. Spirit is what is breathed between bodies. It is the compassion that is shared in between each of our individual suffering existences. So whatever suffering is, whatever consciousness is, whatever the value of suffering and consciousness is, it exists between us, not in me or in you. It's not inside of a skull. It's not a hallucinatory feeling that is just epiphenomenally emerging atop a random electrochemical accident that's just unfolding in the brain somewhere. That is happening, but for example, for those of us who are paper brain people, the thoughts that are occurring in the experience that is now being had and passing is shared with these little written symbols on a page, and the words in these printed books that we share with one another. There's a certain way in which thinking is no longer simply a neural activity once you've become literate, and there's a certain landscape which opens up to the mind, or that in fact opens up a mind that can only come forth when this body and this organism engages with books and words and wordsmithing. So it may annoy Nick a little bit, but I think it's important